I'm Sarai.
And I'm Haley.
And this is Seamwork Radio.
Welcome back to Seamwork Radio, where we share practical ideas for building a creative process so you can sew with intention and joy. And today we're talking about something that might feel a little bit counterintuitive, planning your fall wardrobe right now in the middle of summer. So we're going to cover why this specific window of time is actually the perfect moment to start thinking about fall, what you can do today to get ahead of it, and a simple planning exercise that you can start immediately so that when September arrives, you feel ready. Okay, let's start with our icebreaker, Haley. So tell me about a time you started a sewing project too late. So maybe you were making something seasonal and it didn't come together until after you actually needed it or something like that. So what happened?
I did this actually I guess it was supposed to be a summer project. Last summer, I planned this linen dress and I did not get around to finishing it until September. I kept deprioritizing it in my queue because I was like, it's fine if I don't get around to it. I'll be able to wear it with a cardigan in the fall. I finished it in September. I wore it twice with a cardigan. I thought it would be this super wearable thing, and it will be for this current spring summer. It was not, but I feel like I do that some version of that at least once a year.
Yeah, I think that happens all the time.
What about you?
Well, this happened to me actually recently with a knitting project. I think it happens more for me with knitting than with sewing because knitting takes so long.
That makes sense. I
think with sewing, if it's out of season and I don't feel like making it anymore, I just at that point I can decide whether to make it or not. But with knitting, you could be, 3/4 through a project and you'd still know that it's going to take you another month to finish it. So this actually happened. I was knitting a cardigan. I just finished it. It's the number 7 cardigan, I want to say, from My Favorite Things. Very simple, basic cropped cardigan, but it's in a bulky yarn. So I just finished it. And it's also a dark burgundy color. Very beautiful color, but not summery at all. And I just blocked it last night, actually. So I know I'm not going to wear it for probably at least a couple months. But
sometimes it can be such a gift for the upcoming season when you realize oh my gosh, weather, I can finally wear this thing that I hardly got to wear last year.
That's true. But I do find that, and this is kind of this is one of my personal rules for myself or hacks or whatever. I find that if I wear something as soon as I finish making it, I'm more likely to keep wearing it.
Oh,
and if I don't wear it right away, then I not forget about it, but I don't, I feel like the enthusiasm maybe wanes a little bit or I don't know what it is, but I feel like if I wear it right away, I just get more into it for some reason.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. Or maybe I just start thinking about other ways I can wear it and other things I can pair it with. And then once I get out of the habit of wearing something, it's easy for me to just not wear it.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for that, and capturing that initial excitement and enthusiasm.
Yeah. Because you remember why you made it at that point. Less so in knitting projects since they take me months to finish. I'm not a fast knitter. I take a really long time. I finished weaving in all the ends while we were watching Point Break the other night, which I had not seen since, I don't know, probably the 90s. Great movie.
Yeah.
Great movie. Keanu Reeves is just terrible in it. Just terrible. All right. Well, if you have an icebreaker for a future episode, you can leave a question for us either in a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and we'll answer it in a future episode, or you can leave it in a comment on Spotify, and we'll see that as well. So go ahead and do that. It really helps other people to find the show too. If you don't want to leave a full review or a comment, you can also just leave us a rating, and we really appreciate that as well. Okay, so let's get into fall and start talking about planning for fall. I think there's something that almost feels a little bit backwards about the way most of us approach our seasonal sewing, because we wait until the first cool breeze and then we suddenly want cozy knit sweaters and tailored blazers. And I feel like that's the wrong time to start. I feel like that works well if you are buying clothes. if you're shopping, then, there's all this new stuff out and you get really excited about it. And I think that kind of influences us as sewers, but it's actually maybe not the best time to start if you're working on your sewing projects, because by the time fall arrives, you actually want to be wearing the things that you've made and not necessarily scrambling to cut fabric and order notions. I think one of the biggest dangers is that you feel like you're kind of in a rush at that point to make all the things that you want to wear. So I think midsummer, which is right now, is actually this incredibly valuable window that a lot of sewists just overlook completely, because you're close enough to last fall to remember what was missing from your wardrobe back then, and you have just enough runway to make something about it before the season turns again. And I think a lot of us treat seasonal planning as something we'll get to, kind of when things slow down a little bit. But in the sewing world, waiting is the thing that keeps us on that hamster wheel of feeling like we're behind on our sewing, or we're not doing enough, or we're not making the things we actually want to be wearing. And honestly, I think planning is one of the most fun parts of sewing anyway, so it really deserves its own time and its own attention. So if you've ever opened your closet in October wishing you had something new to wear that you'd made with your own hands, this episode is definitely for you. So Haley, when do you start usually thinking about your fall sewing? Is it something that you plan ahead, or does it tend to sneak up on you?
I definitely plan ahead. I think I have some things working in my advantage here. When I'm planning our photo shoots for the fall, I'm planning those in the summertime. So it gets my kind of like mojo for fall going and gets me thinking of, well, what are all the things that I want to do with these patterns? And so usually around mid-July, I would say the ideation part begins. And then when August hits and all of the back to school stuff like hits the stores, that's when I really start feeling like I want to do something with that energy. It feels imminent, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Something about seeing all those pencils, man.
The smell of pencil shavings. Yeah, I definitely feel that way too. Well, fall is it's such a fun time to design for too, that I think it's a nice transition time in, late July through August, where you can really start thinking about, because I feel like in summer clothing is pretty simple for me, and it's very functional, and that can be fun in its own way. Like I tend to sew in a much more simple way in the summer, but fall, you feel like the possibilities feel like they're really opening up, and there's so much you can do. There's so many directions you can go with textures and fibers and layers, and so I think it's such a fun season to design for.
Yeah. When you look back at last fall, what is one thing that you remember wishing that you had to wear? Like, was it a specific type of garment or a fabric, or just something you never got around to finishing?
Well, I think last fall, so I have a little bit of a uniform that I've developed, I feel like. And so I've been trying to sew to that a little bit more. And one of the things that I've been wearing a lot is long sleeve knit tops as a layering piece, because they go with just about anything. Like I can wear them under a summer dress and turn it into a more of a layered outfit. So one thing that I wished I had more of last fall were tops like that in wool, so merino knit and things like that. So I did actually sew one of those in the spring for myself in a lightweight, light pink, almost tissue knit merino. And I absolutely love it. It's great. So I want to make more of that this fall and winter, because it's just it's an everyday piece for me that just makes me feel it's warm, it's cozy, it's cute, it's versatile. It's it just goes with everything I need to wear. So that's one of the things I definitely want to focus on. What about you?
I think for me, I get really excited about wearing jeans in the fall because all summer long I've been wearing dresses and shorts and things, and I love jeans, and I'm yes, finally. I feel reunited with them. And so I find myself wanting more things that go with jeans, cardigans and sweaters and tops and things like that. So that's something that I'm like is on my mind as I start to like think of what next fall will look like for me.
Yeah. I love jeans too. I tend to wear them a lot in the spring. Like spring and denim go together for me. But also fall.
Yeah, those transitional seasons, you know?
Yeah.
Do you find that planning actually makes you more excited to sew, or do you ever feel like it kind of slows you down? And how do you like keep the planning stage from becoming its own procrastination tool?
Okay, that's a really good question because I think it can definitely go that way. For me, it makes me more excited to sew than it does slow me down. And the reason for that is when I have my projects planned out and I know what I'm going to sew, even if it's just a rough idea, even if I'm going to vary it a little bit, it helps me to just get right into the projects rather than, faffing about with, what kind of fabric should I use? And, blah, blah, blah. And asking myself about second guessing myself, basically. So I love having a plan to sew from. And I think the key to making sure that it is kind of contained is having a structured process for it. Even if it's a lightweight structure, kind of giving yourself a certain amount of time to work on it and, trying to have kind of an end result for your planning. So for me, that's having like a queue of projects that I can then go and cut out. And I just find that to be really invaluable because I think if you're just thinking about planning in terms of like making Pinterest boards, that can be helpful, but it can definitely become a procrastination tool. Like Pinterest is addictive.
Yeah.
It's designed to be addictive. I feel kind of addicted to it sometimes. I try not to spend a lot of time on it because of that. But when I open it up, like if I'm working out and I'm just looking at it in between sets or something while I'm working out, I lose track of time.
Yeah.
It's like ridiculous.
Like I was only supposed to have a 2-minute rest and suddenly it's 15 minutes later.
Exactly. It's not even that great, like Pinterest. It's just a bunch of photos. I don't know why, but it's designed to be addictive. So anyway, I try to stay away from, things that are kind of like infinite like that. And having a process in place is really, really helpful for me. What about you?
Yeah, I have definitely fallen into the trap of allowing it to become another procrastination tool. But I really find, like you said, having a process, but also just like giving myself deadlines for things. Like, okay, I can spend this week to like put as many things on my Pinterest board as my little heart desires. But having, I think, deadlines and then having, like you said, like a goal. Yours is a cue. I like to start out my planning process with like setting a goal of how many projects I want to plan for. And like to be totally honest, most seasons mine's like 3. Yeah. 3 projects that I want to make. And when I have that number in mind, I feel like it's a lot easier to be like, do I really need a Pinterest board with like 100 images?
I know.
To plan 3 garments.
That does help cut things down. You're right.
I usually find that like really helps me to like bring a little reality into the equation.
You're right. I think that's super, super helpful. This summer, I'm only doing 4 projects like, that are planned out. I might do some other things, but I have 4 that are planned out. And when I was making all my mood boards and stuff for them, I was like, well, I don't need like 1,000 ideas. No. I just need the 4 I'm most excited about making and wearing. And that really helps me to spend less time just gathering ideas because there's just so much out there. There's a lot of cool stuff. There is so much.
And I think like building on what you were saying about Pinterest is like such a trap because it feels like you're being productive.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm gathering inspiration, you guys.
Yeah.
I'm not just mindlessly scrolling. This is part of my planning process. You could like really justify it in your brain a lot easier.
Yes, absolutely. I think if you're doing any kind of creative hobby where you need to gather inspiration like that, that is definitely a trap. Not that it's bad to gather inspiration that way. I definitely do, but it can definitely become a reason to keep scrolling.
Yeah. I mean, in my personal design my design process as designer at Seamwork, I even have to do the same thing where I'm like, I gather inspiration, throughout the year. I'm always pinning things. But then when it's time to sit down and plan for fall, I give myself like a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's,
Yeah. I think it also helps to look beyond the internet for inspiration. That really gives you, not only is it like different forms of inspiration and lets you be more creative, but it doesn't have that addictive quality to it.
Like crack open a book.
Yeah, exactly.
Or this is on the internet, but I love Etsy.
To look at actual vintage clothing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's get into some of these tips because I feel like we have some amazing ones to share today. And I'm feeling already very inspired about and excited about fall. All right. So the first tip is to do a quick last fall audit while all of that is still really fresh. Right now, last fall's wardrobe, it's more fresh in your mind than it will be in October when you may not remember which things you reached for most consistently and which ones you actually never wore. So take advantage of that memory while you have it. 3 questions to ask yourself are, what did I wear constantly that I wish I had more of? What do I remember wishing I had but did not? And what did I buy or make that I actually never reached for? You don't need a spreadsheet for this. Even just 5 minutes of jotting down notes gives you a genuinely useful starting point. Think of it like reviewing a recipe that you've made. The best time to write down what you would change is right after you've eaten it or you made it, not 6 months later. When all you remember about it was that it was fine.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. And that's why we've talked a bit in the past about taking outfit photos and documenting what you actually wear in some way. And I think that's really helpful for that reason because it keeps it fresh in your mind. And you can it's a way of jotting down notes, sort of.
Yeah. I mean, and our memories can be really deceptive. You can think that, oh yeah, I wore jeans all the time. And when you look back at photos, you're like, man, I really wore knit pants more than I thought I did or something.
Yeah.
I think we can be unreliable narrators sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you read those 3 questions again? Because I think they're really good.
Yeah, the first one was, what did I wear constantly that I wish I had more of? So this is your long sleeve shirts. What do I remember wishing I had, but I didn't? I wanted more tops. That's what I wish I had more of. And what did I buy or make that I actually did not reach for? For me in the fall, this is dresses. I think I'm going to wear more dresses than I do.
Yeah. I'm kind of that way too. I love wearing dresses, dresses and tights, skirts and tights, but it's not always the most practical.
And I'm also we're coming straight out of summer, which is where I feel like I wear the most dresses. And so I do think there's something to be said for I'm a little burnt out on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a good point too. All right. Well, the next tip is to identify your anchors. So these are the 2 or 3 pieces that would transform how you dress this fall. So rather than making a long wish list, narrow your focus to just 2 or 3 anchor pieces, which are the garments that would really shift how you get dressed each day. So an anchor piece is something that works with a lot of what you already own. It fills a real gap, and it's the kind of thing that you just reach for instinctively. So some examples might be a well-fitting trouser in a neutral, or a cozy layer that you can throw on over almost anything, or a dress that transitions from warm days to cool ones. So for me, I mentioned those long sleeve knit tops. That is definitely an anchor piece for me. I just feel like it's something that I can put on at any time. It goes with everything and is a really foundational part of my kind of fall uniform, my fall and winter uniform. So that's an example for me. Another example for me are really pretty tops. I think because they can be worn with jeans, which is a really easy outfit to put together in the fall for me that still feels kind of like I tried a little bit.
Yeah.
Which I like to feel like I tried a little bit because I work from home most of the time, and it's nice to feel like I'm not in my pajamas constantly.
Yes, totally.
So if you had to pick just one anchor piece to sew for fall right now, what would it be, Haley?
Oh man, I have two in mind, so I'm going to ignore the just one part of the question. I think, like you, pretty tops is definitely high on my list. The other thing that I'm thinking about is I know that I wear jeans. Like jeans are my like primary bottoms that I'm wearing when I'm out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
But what about when I'm working from home?
Yeah.
I'm like, to be real, I'm not putting on fitted high-waisted jeans to sit down at my desk and work from home. So some sort of like polished alternative to that, like a ponte like pant that has like some elevated details to it. Like I want an elevated pair of sweats, basically.
Yeah.
So that's really high on my list too.
Mm-hmm. That's a great one. Very practical.
Really practical. I feel like I would wear it multiple times a week.
Yeah. I think that's a really good anchor piece, a really good example.
And would really serve me well into winter as well.
Yeah. I think outerwear is another really good fall anchor piece for a lot of people. It's something that you can put on over just about anything. So very useful.
Yeah. Things that I'm going to wear like multiple times a week are like ones I know will be number one on my sewing queue.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. And I think another one for me, I have a few pairs of Chelsea jeans that so one of the things I'm thinking is like, if you look at the things that you have made multiple times, that can often be a hint about, as long as you wear them, that's something you've made multiple times and never wear, which I'm sure we've had those things. But for me, the Chelsea jeans are another one that I've made them 3 times now. And I just want them in every color. So that's another good anchor piece for me because I know how it's going to fit. I know that I'll wear it and it'll go with a lot of things in my closet. So that's another really good example. But I'm sure each of you listening has your own thoughts about what it would be for you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's totally individual. Well, our next tip is to start sourcing fabric before fall inventory lands. Late summer, I think, is a really sweet spot for fabric sourcing. The fall fabric inventory typically starts arriving in most fabric stores around August and September. And when it does, it sells fast. So if you're shopping in October for a project you want to wear in November, sometimes it can be too late to find just what you're looking for. So midsummer is a really good time to start looking at, one, what's available right now. Lots of like kind of like evergreen fabrics like a linen or a light wool or ponte or midweight cottons. You're going to be able to buy year round. And start thinking about whether any of those could work for your anchor pieces. It's also a really great time to shop your own stash. You might already have something that's perfect, like sitting in a drawer that you forgot about. And this is another reason that a stash audit is super, super useful. And then once you shop around for what's available now, once you shop your own stash, you're going to have a much clearer idea and plan for what to look for once those fall fabrics start to drop like next month.
Yeah.
And just as like a little reminder, because I will never stop talking about this, is that Seamwork members get discounts at tons of indie fabric stores, which make it a really is a really great tool if you're a Seamwork member. And if you're not a Seamwork member, a great reason to join.
Yeah. And we've got tons of stores that are partnering with us. And
not just in North America, too. We have some in Australia and in the UK.
Yeah, it's great to be able to support those independent stores, especially in this age of big corporations and big box everything. I feel like indie fabric stores are one of the last bastions. All right. Well, the next one is to match your fabric to a pattern before you buy. So I think one of the most common mistakes with buying fabric is getting fabric that you love, but you don't know exactly what you'll make with it. And then it sits there for years because nothing ever feels quite right for it. I mean, obviously we all buy fabric not knowing sometimes what we're going to make with it. And sometimes that's a great way to kind of build a stash that you love that you can shop from later. But a lot of times, at least for me, when I don't have a project in mind, I end up with more than I need and kind of wasting money on fabric because there's just so much great fabric out there and you cannot buy it all. Much as I would love to, you cannot buy it all. And I really try not to transfer the habits of consumerism to my sewing, if that makes sense. Kind of this more attitude where I just have to keep accumulating. I think that can be a little bit of a trap, and it's very easy to justify. At least for me, it has been in the past a way to justify kind of buying things to make myself feel better. And so I try to think really intentionally about that. So the discipline of midsummer planning is really to commit, at least kind of tentatively, to a particular fabric and pattern pairing before you shop or sew. You can always change your mind, but having a working plan means that fabric doesn't just accumulate in your stash. It actually moves through it. So, the great thing about if you're a Seamwork member, you have over 250 patterns in the Seamwork library, and you can just browse through them and find your anchor pieces right there that you can keep in mind as you start kind of looking through and bookmarking what feels right for you. I find that to be really helpful personally. I mostly sew with Seamwork patterns because there's just so much there that I can choose from. But you can also look in other places. I just think it's a really good time to start putting those ideas together and pairing up your pattern and your fabric together. It's kind of like grocery shopping with a meal plan. When you do that, you spend less money, you waste less, and then you actually end up making your dinner instead of just staring at a bunch of random ingredients and wondering what to do. It's the whole analysis paralysis thing. The fewer decisions you have to make, the easier it's going to be to get started.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's also something I'm guilty of. I buy fabric all the time with no plan.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. But
totally.
It happens to me less than it used to. I will say that.
I agree with that statement. All right. Well, our next tip is to build a realistic seasonal timeline. Once you know what you want to make, it's time to work backwards from when you want to wear it. A simple rule of thumb is that most sewists can complete 1 or 2 garments in a month if they're sewing regularly, so you can kind of plan accordingly to that. Don't commit to like 5 projects when you know realistically you only have time for 2. And like I was saying before, I think that, coming up with that number from jump can be a really useful tool as well. And there's 2 kind of techniques that I like to use when I'm planning my seasonal timeline. My first technique I use is to prioritize my project queue by wearability. So I find that when my sojo is low or I have sparse time sewing the thing, like those anchor pieces that we were talking about, the things that I know I'm going to wear a ton really helps me to build momentum and motivation. And in cases where I run out of time in a season, I have like front loaded my sewing queue with the things that are going to be most impactful. Alternatively, when that approach doesn't make sense for whatever plan I've come up with, I'll arrange my queue by weather. So early fall is great for transitional pieces and wardrobe basics, and then late fall is good for those warmer garments as the weather kind of cools off. For me, the goal isn't to have a perfect plan. It's to have one that is useful and that makes sense. And even a rough sequence can be so incredibly helpful. Sari, how many projects do you typically plan for in a season? Do you find that you tend to overshoot, or have you found a number that really works for you?
I've been thinking about this quite a bit lately. So I think it varies by season. In the summer, I'm trying to sew or plan fewer projects because I know how busy I'm going to be and that there's a lot of other things to do in the summer. There's a lot of time I want to spend outside or with friends and family. And so in the summer, I'm doing 4 pieces right now. And then in fall, winter, spring, I'll do a little bit more. My sweet spot, I think, is between 4 and 6 pieces a season. I will say in spring, I think I did more than that. I was planning for my trip to Paris, and I also like found a few extra things I wanted to fit in. So I did, I don't know, I think maybe I did, and I did a wearable muslin for one of my dresses. So I think I did maybe 7 or 8. I can't remember exactly. I ended up doing quite a lot, but that is a lot for me, and it does feel a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
So I think 4 to 6 is my sweet spot. What about you? I think you said 3 before.
3, I feel like is like when I want to set myself up for success and know I'm going to complete my plan. 3. I think a stretch, like a reach goal can sometimes be 4.
Yeah. That's good. It's good to know that, I think.
Yeah. And I feel like I tend to be a little bit more of a minimalist when it comes to my belongings. So that is accumulating things at a cadence that feels good for me and my lifestyle.
Yeah.
And that's just like, individual to everyone.
Yeah. And for me, I'm trying to replace a lot of my ready-to-wear clothing with handmade clothing. So that's why I do a little bit more. I'm trying to transition to an 80% handmade wardrobe, and I'm getting there.
We should do an episode on an update on this.
I know, we really should. I should do an audit and really like count what percentage I'm at right now. It's going really well. In terms of the things I wear, I probably wear 70 to 80% handmade stuff now.
Yeah, you're like all handmade today.
Yeah, I am actually, except for my socks and my shoes, I guess. Yeah, so for me, that's kind of one of my goals. So it's a little bit different. But I do find that like if I overshoot, then I get kind of stressed out by my sewing, and I don't want it to ever feel stressful. All right, the next tip is to write it down. So I'm going to talk about a simple planning exercise that you can do right now. Because all this planning is worth very little if it just stays in your head. And I think the act of writing it down, even informally, changes your relationship to the plan. So here's the simple exercise. Just grab a notebook or a piece of paper and spend 15 minutes on these 4 things. One thing that I wore constantly last fall, so you want to keep doing that. One gap I kept running into, so this is what was missing. My 1 or 2 anchor projects for this fall. And finally, a rough sense of when I want to have them done. So this is kind of like your basic plan, and it builds on those questions that Haley brought up earlier in the episode. So I'll go through those again just so you have them. One thing I wore constantly last fall. So that's the thing you want to keep doing. One gap I kept running into. So that was what was missing. My 1 or 2 anchor projects for this fall, and a rough sense of when I want to have them done. And that's it. That's enough to get started. And then you can build on that. But even that small snapshot really puts you miles ahead of where a lot of people are in July, and definitely where non-sewists are in July thinking about fall. So I find that really helpful. I think sometimes if you don't have a lot of time for planning, it's nice just to have like a 15-minute lightweight plan. Sometimes that's all you need. I enjoy going through more involved planning exercises and making all the mood boards and coming up with my words for the season and all that. I think that's really fun. If you don't have time for it, you can do a simple version.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really helpful to have kind of like an agile process that can meet you where you are.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, let me just recap what we talked about today. So we went over several tips. First one is to audit last fall while it's still fresh. Second is to identify your anchor pieces. Third is to source fabric before the fall rush. Next one is to pair fabric to a pattern before you shop. Build a realistic timeline, and then write it down now. All right. So what's your takeaway from today's episode, Haley?
I think that my takeaway is that it can be really easy to see this type of planning work as being like a purely tactical thing. But it's my belief that style exploration and wardrobe planning can be a really powerful tool for self-reflection. I mean, like in a bigger like woo sense, but also I think that this act of like reflection adds a lot of soul to our creative pursuits. And it helps us to make clothing that's a more thoughtful reflection of ourselves and our personal worlds, and less of a reflection of like impulsivity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a really important point. And I think one of the core reasons that I love sewing so much is that it offers this kind of window into your own feelings and attitudes and sense of who you are in the world. I've been reading some Carl Jung lately, and he talked a lot about, the process of individuation, and especially during midlife, and how it's like this unfolding of understanding who you are. And you kind of have to go through this. You go through kind of the first half of your life, like making all these mistakes and figuring things out. And you can't really see with a clear lens until you get to kind of the midpoint of your life looking back. And I feel like that's one of the things that sewing offers to me at this point in my life, is like this lens on who I've been in the past and who I'm becoming now, and a way to become more of myself in a world that I feel like really encourages conformity and encourages you to do things that are not always healthy for you as an individual, whether that's, scrolling social media all day, or shopping a lot, or, there's a lot of unhealthy activities that are encouraged by our culture. And I think sewing is one of the healthiest things that you can do for yourself. Really, any creative hobby or creative activity, I think, is one of the healthiest things you can do for yourself. So, yeah, hopefully you guys feel the same way and you love sewing as much as we do, or you wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Well, we've been talking a lot about planning today, but I know sometimes like just sit down and plan is easier said than done when you're staring at a blank page. And that's exactly why we created something to help. So we have a free wardrobe planning kit that you can download right now. And it has everything you need to put everything we talked about today into action. So it includes our free wardrobe planner, which are printable pages for sketching outfits, planning individual projects with swatches, thinking through your whole season, plus essential tips to help you sew a wardrobe that you actually want to wear. It's free, it's printable, and honestly, sitting down with this planner and a cup of tea is one of the best ways I know to spend a summer afternoon. So you can grab it at seamwork.com/go/free-planner, and we'll link to that in the show notes. So it's seamwork.com/go/free-planner. And if you want to take this even further, if you've ever wanted a guided, more structured process for designing a whole season of sewing, keep an eye out because our Design Your Wardrobe Fall Program signups are opening later in July. So we'll share more about that soon. But if you want to be the first to know when it opens, the best way is to be a Seamwork member. So head over to seamwork.com to learn more. And if you're a Seamwork member, you get to participate in that every season for free as part of your membership. And if you liked this episode, please consider leaving us a rating or review. It really helps other people to find the show. And we love hearing from you guys and hearing about what you like about the show too. You can also find us on YouTube at Seamwork Video. You can follow us on Instagram at Seamwork. And if you'd like to become part of the Seamwork community, head over to seamwork.com to learn how to join. And that's it for us this week. I'm Sarai.
And I'm Haley.
And this is Seamwork Radio.